Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're heading back in time, way back to Angola.
That's right.
We're exploring the story of Angolatitan.
A really fascinating dinosaur.
Yeah, and we've got the original scientific papers, some related research here too. Our mission, basically, is to unpack what this discovery means.
Mm-hmm.
What does this first dinosaur find in Angola actually tell us about dinosaur life there? In Africa, during the Late Cretaceous, and, well, why is it so important?
It really is a key find. It's not just another fossil. It gives us this window into a world we honestly still don't know that much about.
Late Cretaceous Africa, right?
Exactly. And for you listening, it's a great chance to see how paleontology works, how scientists piece together the past from, well, sometimes just fragments.
Okay, so starting right at the beginning, the name, Angolatitan, pronounced Angolatitan,
Uh-huh.
which seems straightforward enough. Angolan giant.
Mm.
Makes sense.
Yeah, pretty direct.
But the species name, Adamastor, that one's,
Mm.
well, it's got a bit more to it, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Adamastor is this figure from mythology, a sea monster.
Right.
Symbolized all the dangers that Portuguese sailors faced when they were navigating the southern Atlantic. And the connection here, which is fascinating, is to Angola's history.
As a Portuguese colony until 1975.
Exactly. So the name kind of weaves together this ancient past with much more recent human history. It's really quite evocative.
It is, like ancient land giants meeting mythical sea terrors.
It is. So how did they actually find this giant? I'm guessing it didn't just pop out of the ground.
Huh, no, not quite. The discovery was actually a direct result of the Paleo-Angola project.
Okay.
And that project started up after the Angolan Civil War ended in 2002. Think about it. These were the first proper paleontological expeditions in Angola since the 1960s.
Wow, decades later. Talk about potential for new discoveries after all that time.
Huge potential.
Yeah.
So this first expedition kicked off in 2005. They were looking specifically at Upper Cretaceous rocks.
And someone got lucky.
Octavio Mateus did. On May 25th, near a place called Embe in Bengo Province. Right place, right time.
And it's pretty amazing, really. So soon after restarting fieldwork in the country, boom, such a significant find.
But getting it out wasn't quick, I take it. They had to be careful.
Definitely. The actual excavation work happened over two periods, May and then again in August 2006.
Okay.
So careful work. And then, science takes time. It took several more years of study before Octavio Mateus and his colleagues published the official description. That was in 2011.
Right. Meticulous work. So after all that digging and studying, what did they actually pull out? It wasn't a complete skeleton, was it?
No, not the whole shebang. The holotype specimen, that's the key reference fossil for Angolatitan. It's a partial right forelimb.
Just the arm or forearm?
Yeah, the forelimb. So you've got the shoulder blade, the humerus, that's the upper arm bone.
Okay.
Then the ulna and radius, the two lower arm bones, and three metacarpals. Those are part of the hand structure.
Gotcha.
And this set of bones, it has a field number, MGUNPA003, and it's kept safe in Luanda at the Museo de Geologia of the Universidad Agostinho Neto.
Important piece of Angolan heritage now.
Absolutely. Though, interestingly, for researchers elsewhere, there's a cast of the humerus at the National Museum of Natural History, too. So, yeah, not complete, but still very informative.
Okay, so just the forelimb. Now, for you listening, that might sound like not much to go on for a giant dinosaur.
Mm-hmm.
But what can that limb tell us about Angolatitan? Especially compared to other titanosaurs, which were, everywhere.
That's the key question. And what's really insightful is that Angolatitan is classified as a titanosauriform.
So in that big group, that includes titanosaurs.
Right, but its forelimb has some features that look a bit more primitive. Like, generally speaking, it was less robust, less sturdy than the forelimbs you see in more advanced or derived titanosaurs.
Less robust.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, what might that imply? Like how it moved or supported its weight differently, maybe?
That's a great point. It could hint at differences in how it walked, maybe its posture. Perhaps it relied more on its hind limbs, or its overall build was just different. These little details in the bones, they give us clues about the animal's lifestyle.
And the hand bones, the metacarpals. Were they typical titanosaur stuff?
Not quite. The metacarpals in Angolatitan were quite slender, and significantly, they were all pretty much the same length.
Equal length.
Yeah, whereas your more typical titanosaurs, they usually have chunkier metacarpals, and they vary in length. One might be shorter or longer than the others.
So a more uniform hand structure. Any other standout features on this arm that made scientists go, that's different?
Yes, a couple of other key things. Angolatitan didn't have an olecranon.
Olecranon.
It's a bony bump, a projection on the ulna, one of those lower arm bones. Titanosaurs generally have it. Angolatitan didn't.
Okay, no elbow bump.
Pretty much.
Sure.
And also, the first metacarpal, sort of like our thumb bone, it wasn't bowed or curved. In titanosaurs, it often is.
Hmm.
So these seemingly small anatomical differences, they're actually really important for figuring out evolutionary relationships.
Right, so these clues, less robust, equal metacarpals. No olecranon on bump, straight first metacarpal. That's how scientists place it on the family tree. Okay, let's zoom out. Where does it officially fit? The whole classification.
Okay, the full biological address, if you like. It's domain Eukaryota, kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, then down into Dinosauria.
Right.
Within Dinosauria, it's a Saurischian, the lizard-hipped ones, then Sauropodomorpha, the long-necked plant-eaters group, then Sauropoda, the real giants.
Keep going.
Within Sauropoda, it's in Macronaria, and then Symphospondyle, and finally genus Angolatitan.
Quite the pedigree. And within that huge sauropod group, where did the first description place it?
The initial study identified Angolatitan as a basal titanosauriform.
Basal, meaning?
Meaning sort of at the base of that branch. Think of it on the evolutionary tree as coming after Brachiosaurus, but before things like Euholopus and the main group we call Titanosauria.
So an early offshoot of the titanosaur line?
Exactly. Which is really interesting because of when it lived.
Right, that's the ticker, isn't it?
It really is. Angolatitan was around in the late Cretaceous. That's a time when the more advanced titanosaurs were basically dominant all over the world.
So finding a more primitive or basal form that late?
Yeah.
That's unusual.
It's remarkable. It suggests you had this older lineage kind of persisting alongside its more evolutionarily derived cousins, which makes you wonder, for you listening, what this lineage perhaps isolated somehow in Africa. Did it hang on there while titanosaurs elsewhere were evolving differently?
Like a living fossil almost from an earlier dinosaur era. But I thought I read something about a more recent study, maybe shifting its position slightly.
You're right. There was a 2017 study by Gorsak and Connor. They ran more phylogenetic tests, basically, more detailed computer analyses comparing anatomical features across lots of species to figure out relationships. Their results suggested Angolatitan might actually be a non-titanosaurian titanosauriform.
Okay, so still in that broader group, but maybe even further removed from the main Titanosauria line.
Potentially, yes. It would emphasize its more basal characteristics even more strongly if that interpretation holds up.
Fascinating how the picture keeps getting refined. Okay, let's talk about its world, the environment. What do the rocks and the other fossils found nearby tell us?
Well, the Angolatitan bones themselves came from the toddy beds. That's a specific layer, about 50 meters thick, within the Biggery Tombe Formation.
And the age.
Initially, they thought Turonian, but newer work points to the Coniation stage. Still late Cretaceous, and crucially, the rocks themselves. They show signs of being laid down in marginal marine conditions.
Marginal marine. Like the estuaries, lagoons, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Picture a giant dinosaur hanging out near the coast. It's a bit different from the typical image of them deep inland, isn't it?
It is. So who else was living in this coastal neighborhood?
Oh, the toddy beds give us a great snapshot. They found ammonites.
The curly-shelled things?
Yeah, extinct relatives of squid, plus echinoderms, starfish, sea urchins, various fish, including sharks.
Okay, lots of sea life.
And other reptiles, too. A turtle called Angolatitan zimbaxi, and some big marine predators, mosasaurs like Ankylosaurus bocajai and Tylosaurus imbensis, plus plesiosaur fossils.
Wow, so Angolatitan had some serious marine neighbors.
Definitely wasn't alone out there.
But hang on, I remember reading the overall climate might have been quite dry. How does a coastal setting fit with, like, desert conditions?
That's a sharp catch. It seems counterintuitive, right? But while the specific place the fossils ended up was coastal, the reconstruction of the wider habitat suggests was generally desert-like.
Like the Namib Desert today, arid but right by the ocean.
Exactly like that. It's entirely possible Angola had very dry conditions overall, even right up to the sea. It's kind of mind-bending, picturing these huge animals in such an environment. Makes you think about adaptation.
So this Angolan giant, maybe stomping around a dry, harsh landscape right next to the sea. Any ideas how it coped? Any adaptations?
Well, researchers have drawn a comparison, maybe cautiously, to modern desert elephants.
How so?
Desert elephants are adapted to arid conditions, right? They can travel huge distances for food and water. It's plausible, maybe likely, that Angolatitan had similar adaptations, whether physiological or behavioral, to handle a very dry climate bordering the coast.
A desert-dwelling coastal giant.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing picture of a lost world. Okay, as we start to wrap this up, what are the big takeaways for you, the listener, from this Angolatitan story?
Well, first off, its huge significance as the first non-avian dinosaur found in Angola. That alone makes it vital for understanding African prehistory.
Right. Open a new chapter.
Definitely. Second, its anatomy, that mix of basal and more derived features, gives us really valuable clues about how titanosaurs and their relatives evolved.
And the timing.
And the timing, its late appearance as a more basal form is just really thought-provoking. And finally, the whole package, the bones plus the other fossils, gives us this glimpse into a unique late Cretaceous ecosystem. Coastal, but maybe desert-like. Fascinating.
And that idea of it being a relict form, an older lineage hanging on, it really drives home that evolution isn't always a straight line, is it?
Not at all. Different branches can coexist, persist. It's much more complex.
Yeah.
And honestly, this discovery just opens up so many questions. It makes you wonder what else is waiting to be found in Angola's Cretaceous rocks.
Especially since finding something this major happened relatively recently, after exploration was limited for so long.
Exactly. It really underscores the potential. As work continues there, who knows what other groundbreaking discoveries might emerge? It could really reshape our view of dinosaurs in Africa.